Yeah, I'm very. If you read the last newsletter from last week, I gave a little intro about C.S. Lewis, but I'm excited to begin this series this evening and for the next 7 weeks called Lessons from Lewis. I get to start off this week by drawing from his works, the Chronicles of Narnia, drawing a lesson entitled Lines to Live By. So really it's 3 lessons, but that's the overarching title of this talk, Lines to Live By, the Chronicles of Narnia. Now I want to briefly answer that question, why Lewis? Why should we learn from him? Before I get into this, if you want a fuller answer, go read that newsletter, but just for this evening, I want to give a brief, I want to touch on that briefly. So as you, I'm sure well know, if you don't, then you should, Lewis was a Christian thinker of the last century. He was born at the end of the 19th century, 1898 to be exact, and he died in the 60s, right? So 1963. He lived through the 2 world wars and fought in the first one and then had much to say through the second one. If you've read his Mere Christianity, those are lectures or radio broadcasts that were through the BBC during World War II. And so that's pretty cool when the BBC actually produced good stuff. What do you know? Now Lewis was a thorough academic, thorough scholar, but one who could speak plainly, right? He had a knack, I would say a gift, for not only seeing deep insights in how God made us and the world, but also a gift for expressing those insights in a clear way, and not just a clear way, but a very poetic way. Right? He really could capture your imagination. I think I always return to Lewis, just continually as I'm thinking about a subject, as I'm thinking through a sermon or an exhortation, I'm like, how would I put that? And then I'm like, oh, Lewis has already put it this way, and it's so brilliant. He just has a way with painting those insights in a way that just captures your imagination. And so I really appreciated him, and many things have just lingered with me over the years. So that is, in short, why Lewis, and I hope over the course of these 7 weeks, that this rationale, right, will take on more substance, right? If you're not too familiar with Lewis, I hope you by the end come to appreciate him more and desire to read some of his works. And if you are really familiar with Lewis, I hope that these can present deeper insights into what you've already read. So each week, the talk will mostly draw from 1 or 2 works, right? Try to have a focus to them. And I'd also like to have a time of questions and discussion after, if that's, if there are questions, if there are things you'd like to discuss, and I might even have some questions for you to test if you're paying attention, especially you children. So we'll see. And so, yeah, like I said, this week we'll draw out a few things from the Chronicles of Narnia that have stuck with me over the years. In future talks, next week I'm going to talk from the Great Divorce. And then I hope to do one through the reflections or his work on the Psalms, the reflection on the Psalms, possibly Abolition of Man. Definitely I'm going to touch on Lewis's collection of lectures or addresses called The Weight of Glory and Other Addresses, which if you haven't read those, they're fantastic. I think there's about 7 in there. Those are worth reading too. Jacob Maccabee will be giving a talk drawing from the Space Trilogy. And Don Jones will give a talk drawn from Narnia and some of his other works. So that's sort of the lineup in these next 7 weeks. And if you have those books at home, pick them up, read them again. If you don't have them, you can go ahead and buy them and and read them over the course of these weeks. It's been fun revisiting his works. I don't do a lot of rereading, which is probably a shame on me, but I do end up rereading Lewis a lot. I just find the one guy who I read a lot over and over again is Lewis. So let's get started with this evening. Let's get into Narnia. To start off, a question for you all by a show of hands. Who has read the Chronicles of Narnia? Wow. Yeah, that's almost. Is that 100%? I don't see Garrett with his hand up. Who has read them more than once? Yeah, more than twice? 3 times? If it was 4 or 5, you had to come up here. I've read them maybe twice, 3 times, but wow. And this isn't a fair question, but which book is your favorite? So by a show of hands, Magician's Nephew. 1! 1, 2, 3, okay, 4. Magician's Nephew, okay. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. All right, a few of those. The Horse and His Boy. This is usually the crowd favorite. Yeah, it's my wife's hand up somewhere. Prince Caspian. Okay. Yep. Voyage of the Dawn Treader. That's my personal favorite. It's like the Odyssey, but Lewis does it. The Silver Chair. Okay. And The Last Battle. All right. Okay. There's a fair spread. Horse and His Boy takes it, but yeah, my favorite is The Voyage, and then I think my favorite scene is in The Silver Chair. There's a lot we can say about Narnia. There's so much in it, but I want to focus this evening on 3 lines, and I may ask you right later if you have others to throw into the mix, but there are 3 lines that I've come across that I would say are lines to live by. 3 lines, some reoccurring throughout all the Chronicles, but 3 lines that over and over come up again, for me at least, that provide guidance, right, in ordinary matters, right, in my walk with the Lord, in my walk through this world. They just continue to come up and instruct me. So the first line I want to get into, it shows up in The Horse and His Boy, right? It's in the very middle of the book, and it's at one of the great reveals. So it's when Aslan reveals himself to Shasta during a misty mountain journey, and Shasta has woefully, the context of this, Shasta has woefully fallen behind King Lune and his troops on their way to Anvar to secure Anvar against Rabidash and his soldiers. So if you recall, it's pitch midnight. Shasta hears this stomping of hooves. Enemy cavalrymen, horsemen ride past him, and Shasta's alone again, but he's actually not alone. Right? He's not actually alone, and he knows he's not alone. He can feel this presence, and he basically shouts out, right? Show me yourself. Right? Come out. Let me know that you're here. I know you're there. Make yourself known. And sure enough, a voice does make himself known, and it is, who is it? It's Aslan, right? It's Aslan, and after hearing Shasta's woes, Shasta asks a question, right? A question of Aslan, a question that's unrelated to his own story, but that of Aravis, right? And who is Aravis? What? The girl? The girl? Yeah, she's a Calorman noble girl who escapes an arranged marriage and adventures with Shasta and the talking horse back to Narnia. So Aslan answers in this way. He says, speaking to Shasta, he says, "Child, I am telling you your story. Right? I am telling you your story, not hers, not Aravis's. I tell no one," and he continues, "I tell no one any story but his own." Right? So I think that is our first line to live by. I am telling you your story, and I tell no one any story but his own. So I want to read to you from this section in The Horse and His Boy, chapter 11. Let's see. So this picks up right after Shasta. Well, actually, I'm going to include the part where he starts pouring out his sorrow. So this is page 163, if you're reading along. He says, "Once more, he, Shasta, felt the warm breath of the thing on his hand and face. 'There,' it said, 'that is not the breath of a ghost.'" This is Aslan speaking. "Tell me your sorrows." Shasta was a little reassured by the breath, so he told how he had never known his real father or mother and had been brought up sternly by the fishermen. And then he told the story of his escape and how they were chased by lions and forced to swim for their lives, and of all the dangers in Tashbaan, and about his night among the tombs and how the beasts howled at him out of the desert. And he told about the heat and thirst of their desert journey and how they were almost at their goal when another lion chased them and wounded Aravis, and also how very long it was since he had anything to eat. "I do not call you unfortunate," said the large voice. "Do you think it was bad luck to meet so many lions?" said Shasta. "There was only one lion," said the voice. "What on earth do you mean? I've just told you that there were at least 2 the first night, and—" "There was only one, but he was swift of foot." "How do you know?" "I was the lion." And Shasta gaped with open mouth and said nothing. The voice continued, "I was the lion who forced you to join with Aravis. I was the cat who comforted you among the houses of the dead. I was the lion who drove the jackals from you while you slept. I was the lion who gave the horses the new strength of fear for the last mile, so that you should reach King Lune in time. And I was the lion, you do not remember, who pushed the boat in which you lay, a child near death, so that it came to shore where a man sat, wakeful at midnight to receive you. Then it was you who wounded Aravis. It was I. But what for? Child, said the voice, I am telling you your story, not hers. I tell no one any story but his own. Who are you? Asked Shasta. Myself, said the voice, very deep and low, so that the earth shook. And again, myself, loud and clear and gay. And then in the third time, myself, whispered so softly that you could hardly hear it. And yet it seemed to come from all around you, as if the leaves rustled with it. Shasta was no longer afraid that the voice belonged to something that would eat him, nor that it was the voice of a ghost, but a new and different sort of trembling came over him. Yet he felt glad too. So that's the section. And after this, following this scene, the light dawns. Right? Shasta looks over and he sees the lion. He sees the one that has made this voice, sees Aslan. And Shasta is thinking, in the midst of this, we just read it, Shasta is thinking about how hard he has had it. Right? He's in the process of pouring out all of his sorrows. And we have that line that Aslan says, I do not consider you, I do not call you unfortunate. Right? And then he proceeds to tell him, Aslan proceeds to tell Shasta his story, to tell him all the ways that Aslan looked after him, right? Even hurting him lovingly. But when Shasta tries to pry into Aravis' story, right, that's not for him to hear. Right? That's not for him to hear. Child, I am telling you your story, not hers. I tell no one any story but his own. So that's the line. Why is that a great line? How does it help us to live well? Well, this is a line to live by especially when we are feeling all kinds of bad for ourselves, right? When we are in all midst of woes and we just feel quite bad for ourselves. And it cuts two ways. So first, remember the context, right? Shasta, in this setting, has been deserted, right? He's fallen behind woefully, and he simply adds this desertion to his long list of woes, woes that he has been keeping track of. Right, obviously, so that when Aslan says, tell me your woes, he's ready with it. He has a list of things that he can go into. There's an old saying, or at least Grandpa Jim, Heather's grandpa would often say it, bitterness remembers details. Right? Bitterness remembers details, and Shasta could remember a lot of details. He's in the throes of this self-pity. And how does Aslan comfort him? Well, he says, I don't think you're unfortunate. Right? I don't think you're unfortunate. Tell me your story. Right? Or sorry, let me tell you your story. Right? I don't think you're unfortunate. Now let me go. You've had your turn. Let me go now. This is a great line because it teaches us that we have a story that we can tell in a certain way that is full of self-pity, right? That is full of nursing wounds, that is full of, it is attempting to draw pity from others. It's a bit pathetic. And we can look over our lives, right? We all can do it, and tell ourselves and tell anyone who would dare listen to us, tell our story in a way that's all sad and dark, and that we are this down-and-out orphan, right? Shasta's an orphan. He has had several difficulties, several trials in his life, right? He's raised by a stern fisherman. He has had it rough, but that's our telling of our story, right, usually. But then Aslan could tell Shasta's story more truthfully. He could tell it in a way that shows how kind Aslan, has been to this orphan who this lion has protected him. He has operated hiddenly, right, all around him, behind the scenes, and orchestrating all of these things in Shasta's life for good. So the point is, we are not the best tellers of our story, right? We aren't. We are too involved. We see the pain and the sorrow, but we have a hard time seeing past them to the actual meaning behind all the details. But just as Aslan could tell Shasta's story truthfully, so the Lord can tell our story, right, more truthfully, more truly than we can tell our own. All the seemingly sorrowful details of our life, right, He is behind them. He is working them for our good. He is training us, right? He is perfecting us. He is leading us. He has good in store for us, and we get to trust Him in that. Right? We get to trust Him and trust that He is the one who is sovereignly orchestrating our life, and He is the one that can tell it well. So that's the first thing that this shows us. And the second thing that this line involves is others' stories. Right? It's a perspective of how we should view others' stories. Often, when we are in the grip of self-pity, in the grip of woe, we like to hear about others' woes, right? Others' miseries, right? Misery loves company. And Aslan has been behind Shasta's story, and so surely also he's behind Aravis's, right? And Aravis was wounded. Well, what was that for, right? Surely there's something behind that. Maybe did she sin? Right? Was there something involved? Did she falter, and did you discipline her for that? Right? She must have deserved it. Oh, she definitely deserved it. Right? Tell me more. Right? In the midst of his woes, he wants to hear about hers. Right? He wants to hear about what's going on in her life and how the Lord is operating there. And there's this desire to hear about others' woes that feeds something in us that is not good. Right? Aslan, though, will not have anything of it. Right? He closes that door. He shuts that conversation off. Instead, the Lord deals with Shasta, and the Lord deals with Aravis. The Lord deals with me. The Lord deals with you. He deals with those around us, and we are not usually privy, right, to his dealings. We don't get to often come into that. That's not our role. We don't often get to come into that. So this is, of course, in this book, in The Horse and His Boy, but it is actually a theme throughout many of Lewis's works. Lewis was, biographically, he was a rather private man himself, and he understood that the Lord dealt with a man's sins privately. Of course, when there's public sin, right, it has to be dealt with publicly, but the Lord doesn't often broadcast others' sins and his dealings with them. And so we actually find this not just through his other works, but through the rest of Chronicles of Narnia. Can anybody else think of a scene in Narnia where we see this, where the Lord deals with someone's sins privately?
The silver chair with Jill.
Oh, okay, yeah. What happens there?
When
I didn't think of that
wants to drink the water.
Oh, yeah.
And refused because she was terrified of Aslan.
Yeah.
But he told her, go ahead and do that.
Yeah. Offers just her and him. Yeah. Yeah. Eustace in the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and that's one of my examples. So he's morphed into a dragon, right, for his greed, and there's shame with that, shame with his greed, and so he's made public in terms of he's turned into a dragon. Everybody can see this dragon because his sins were against those who are around him. He was a dragon to others, and so the Lord said, "Well, look like one then, right? You're one in heart, so why not you be one in appearance?" But right when the Lord then deals with Eustace, it's off alone, and he's clawing Aslan has to claw his skin off, and it was just between him and Eustace, right? So that's another instance where Lewis does not let us in, or does not let others into Aslan's dealings with an individual. And there's also Edmund, right? Edmund, who's the first kind of villain. The White Witch is the worst one, but Edmund sinned against his siblings, right? He sinned against Narnia. He was a traitor. He did a lot of awful things, and yet when he came to his senses, after Edmund had been rescued from the witch by Aslan's forces, Aslan speaks with Edmund about his betrayal. Now, does anybody recall what Aslan said to Edmund? It doesn't say. Yeah, it doesn't say. It's a trick question. There aren't any juicy details, right? Actually, Lewis writes this. He says, "There is no need to tell you, and no one ever heard what Aslan was saying, but it was a conversation with Edmund, or which Edmund never forgot." Right? So he purposefully, it's like, you're not allowed to hear what happened there. So again, that child, I am telling you your story. I'm not telling you hers, I'm not telling you his. I tell no one any story but his own. So that is a line to live by. He tells our story more truthfully than we can tell it. So in the midst of us seeing all, complaining about everything around us, well, remember, God is the one orchestrating it. And let him tell it, right? He's going to tell it well. And secondly, the Lord does not satisfy our curiosity. He doesn't satisfy our envy, our pride. He doesn't satisfy our itching ears for juicy gossip. He doesn't let our noses in to sniff around at all the details, right, of those around us. So that's the first line, and it's a line to live by. Stick with you, stuck with me. The second line comes from the book of Prince Caspian. So this line is found also in the middle of that book, and it's put in the mouth of Trumpkin. So who's Trumpkin?
Lord Regent for this point.
Huh?
Lord Regent for this at this point for Caspian.
Oh, yeah. He's a dwarf? Yeah. What is he like? He's crusty. He's crusty. He's skeptical. Yeah, he's faithful. He's skeptical. He's the one that had the hard time believing all the old Narnian stories about deep magic. The old stories of High King Peter, who doubted the magic of Susan's horn. He even questioned the existence of Aslan right until he met him. You can't doubt him once you see him. And all those things, as he put it, and this must be a great dwarf line to live by, all those things are, according to him, eggs and moonshine. Right? They're just all eggs and moonshine. That's not our line, but that was his line. That's not necessarily a line to live by. I don't know what you do with that. So the situation is this, the context of our line. Prince Caspian decides to send a messenger to find help after blowing the magic horn. Trumpkin, who's the skeptic, he strongly advises against this. Right? It's a wild goose chase, he says. It is all to no purpose. It's a waste of resources. It's going to come to nothing. But, right, Trumpkin, even despite being the great skeptic that he is the quintessential loyal soldier. Right? He is very faithful. He knows his role, and he plays it very well. And so I'm going to read to you from Caspian, chapter 7, page, 96 through 98. So then, in the name of Aslan, we will wind, this is Caspian, then in the name of Aslan, we will wind Queen Susan's horn, said Caspian. There's one thing, sire, said Dr. Cornelius, that should perhaps be done first. We do not know what form of the help will take. It might call Aslan himself from overseas, but I think it more likely to call Peter, the High King, and his mighty consorts down from the high past. But in either case, I do not think we can be sure that the help will come to this very spot. You never said a truer word, put in Trumpkin. I think, went on the learned man, that they or he will come back to one or other of the ancient places of Narnia. This, where we now sit, is the most ancient and most deeply magical of all, and here, I think, the answer is likeliest to come. But there are two others. One is Lantern Waste, upriver, west of Beaver's Dam, where the royal children first appeared in Narnia, as the records tell. The other is down at the river mouth, where their castle of Cair Paravel once stood. But if Aslan himself comes, that would be the best place for meeting him too. For every story says that he is the son of the great emperor over the sea, and over the sea he will pass. I should like very much to send messengers to both places, to Lantern Waste and the river mouth, to receive them, or him, or it. Just as I thought, muttered Trumpkin. The first result of all this foolery is not to bring us help, but to lose us two fighters. Who would you think of sending, Dr. Cornelius? Asked Caspian. Squirrels are best for getting through enemy country without being caught, said Truffle Hunter. All our squirrels, we haven't many, said Nickabrick, are rather flighty. The only one I'd trust on a job like that would be Pattertwig. Let it be Pattertwig then, said King Caspian. And who for our other messenger? I know you'd go, Truffle Hunter, but you haven't the speed. Nor you, Dr. Cornelius. I won't go, said Nickabrick. With all these humans and beasts about, there must be a dwarf here to see that the dwarfs are fairly treated. Thimbles and thunderstorms, cried Trumpkin in a rage. Is that how you speak to the king? Send me, sire. I'll go. But I thought you didn't believe in the horn, Trumpkin, said Caspian. No more I do, your majesty. But what's that got to do with it? I might as well die on a wild goose chase as die here. You are my king. I know the difference between giving advice and taking orders. You've had my advice. Now it's time for orders. So that last part, right, that is a wonderful line to live by. Right? I know the difference between taking or giving advice and taking orders. You've had my advice. Now tell me what to do. Right? Tell me what to do. I'm your loyal servant. So again, we have this skeptic, this strong-headed, disbelieving dwarf, who out of the entire bunch is the least enthused about this great plan. But what? Right? He's very loyal. He honors his king. He gives his clear counsel, counsel that cuts against the final plan, counsel that is rejected, right? And then he's eager for his orders. Right? He doesn't get his heart hurt that his counsel wasn't taken. He says, hey, where are my orders? And you can see this contrast, right, between the two dwarves, between Trumpkin and Nickabrick. Nickabrick is not a skeptic, right? He's all for this plan. He's got his way. But what? He refuses to go. Right? He flat out refuses to go. And also note that he wasn't even asked. Right? He wasn't even asked to go. King Caspian acknowledged Truffle Hunter and said, okay, I know you would go, but you're too slow. And Dr. Cornelius, right, you would go, you're too slow. But before he would even be asked, Nickabrick shuts it down. Says, I will not go. Right? There's not a chance I'll go. I won't help with the plan that I even believe in, right, that I would throw my vote toward. He's not loyal. Right? He even resents the king, and as it plays out, right, he doesn't ally himself with the king. Instead, he allies himself with a hag and a werewolf, and even ends up attacking the king himself and gets himself killed. Right? So that's Nickabrick. But you have that foil right there between a dwarf who's all on board with the plan, but not a chance is he going to be loyal to the king. And then you have another one who is skeptical, but very devoted. Trumpkin rails at Nickabrick. He throws his hat in, and he says, I'll gladly be that messenger, even on an errand that he thinks is a wild goose chase. It's not that he's come around to believing in the horn, right, as he says in his disbelief, right? What's that got to do with it? That's irrelevant. My belief is irrelevant. You are my king. Right? You are my king. He is loyal. He has given us counsel, and now he just asks, tell me what to do. Right? Tell me what to do. So that is a great line to live by, and that's always stuck with me. We are all under authority. Right? That's a reality, whether at work, in the home, at church, in the civil sphere. We all answer to someone, and ultimately, right, we answer to Christ. And at times, right, except for the last one, except for with Christ, we might have valid disagreements. You might have disagreements with Christ. They're not valid, though, right? So you just have to submit. But our counsel might at times cut against our boss, right? Our counsel, wives, your counsel might at times cut against your husbands. It might cut against leadership. But what's that got to do with it? Right? At the end of the day, what's that got to do with it? There's a difference between giving advice and taking orders, and Trumpkin knew that. Right? He understood that. You've had my advice, and now it's time for orders. So that is what strong loyalty looks like, and I think Lewis just does an excellent job of portraying it, because Trumpkin is not a weak character, right? Not at all. He is not stupid. He's not passive. Trumpkin couldn't be called any of those. He's a strong dwarf. He has a strong head. He has a very strong opinion. He has strong reasons, but right, he knows his role. He knows the difference between giving advice and taking orders. So that is the second line to live by that I regularly return to. Now the last line I have for you this evening surfaces and resurfaces all throughout the Narnia series, and it's going to be the most familiar to you. I know I've mentioned it several times in sermons, but it's about Aslan, right? He's not safe, right? He's not tame, but he is what? He's good. He's good. Now, for the sake of time, I'm not going to read the whole section, but let me read the paragraph where it first shows up. Not in this book. This one. So this is the context of this is when the children are speaking or at Beaver's Dam, talking to Mr. and Mrs. Beaver, and they first catch wind of the son of the emperor over the sea, and Susan hears that he's a lion. She says, "Oh, right. I thought he was a man. Is he quite safe? I shall feel rather nervous about meeting a lion." "That you will, dearie, and no mistake," said Mrs. Beaver. If there's anyone who can appear before Aslan without their knees knocking, they're either braver than most or just silly." "Then he isn't safe," said Lucy. "Safe," said Mr. Beaver. "Don't you hear what Mrs. Beaver tells you? Who said anything about safe? Of course he isn't safe, but he's good. Right? He's the king, I tell you." And so that's the line, and that's really that theme just is all throughout the Narnia books. It's one of the main themes throughout the Chronicles of Narnia and Mark's the Aslan character. He's not a tame lion, right? He cannot be controlled. He is not safe. In fact, he regularly hurts the main characters, right? We've already mentioned some of the ways that he's not safe. Shasta, his whole past, right? It was not safe. The troubles he went through, Aslan was behind the scenes guiding those things. They met with difficulties. They were even hurt. But Aslan's providential guiding, though not safe, his purposes were good. Right? They're very good through it all. And so also with Aravis in The Horse and the Boy, right? She was wounded, and she was wounded by Aslan with those claws. Anybody recall why she was wounded?
The
Don.
for
strike for strike, this
Yeah.
is what her maid got.
Yeah. Yeah, she had drugged her maidservant in order to escape. And she'll be fine, but she got whipped, right? Because under her watch, Aravis got away. And also, he wounded Eustace, as I already mentioned. Any other instances you guys can think of? I know you mentioned Jill at the pool, right? He's terrifying at the pool. Any other instances? I'm going to take a drink. I can't really, so. But you guys have read it 4 or 5 times, so. So Aslan is never not a lion. He is terrifying, but the kind of terror that he evokes is the terror that would keep us near him, right? Would not cause us to fly away from him, but would keep us near him, and then we're safe, right? We're safe when we're near him. In this, Lewis teaches us the fear of the Lord, right? The fear of the Lord, which had, certainly in our time, but also in his, had largely left the scene, right? You don't fear God. God is all love, and he's just sort of the sky god that rains down blessings. But Lewis is here teaching us through a kid's story that no, we need to fear the Lord. The Lord is to be feared, and we see that throughout the Old Testament. Of course, it was often through terrifying feats in the Old Testament that the Lord revealed himself. Israel, for instance, when they first heard the Lord's voice. Right, it was his voice thundering over Sinai while this mountain was on fire. Right, it was terrifying, and they said, "Let him speak no more to us." Right, you, Moses, you go talk to him. I don't want to hear from him anymore. So the Lord shows himself to be terrifying in the Old Testament. He shows himself to be just. He disciplines every son, every daughter whom he receives, and of course, he is a terror to the wicked. Right, just like Aslan. Earlier in the Narnia scene, Mrs. Beaver speaks of the witch, that the witch would not be able to even stand right before Aslan. And at no point throughout Scripture do you get the impression that the Lord is tame, that he's controllable. Right? Even those who make Jesus out to be a soft spoken, gentle and lowly kind of person, they can only do so, right? That's certainly one part of our Lord, but you can only absolutize that by cutting out large parts of the gospel, right? Ignoring places where he rebukes his disciples, calling Peter, Satan, ignoring those places where he pronounces woes against unrepentant cities, where he foretells the destruction of Jerusalem, where he takes out a whip and goes into the temple, right, and drives those who are exploiting God's people from the temple. In all of this, Jesus is not safe, but he's good, right? He is good. And in our day, this is especially important for us to keep in mind because we do live in a strange time. We live in a time that idolizes safety, right? You have safe spaces, you have respecting pronouns, avoiding triggering language, you have calling good, loving discipline of children, child abuse, and all of this while doing what? Right? All of this while embracing violence against those who don't bow to the idol of safety. Right? So there's quite a contradiction going on there. And there's really no goodness in it. It's this self-protective mentality to the point of embracing death, of idolizing it and embracing death. So Aslan isn't safe, and why is that? Because our sins need to be confronted. Right? They need to be confronted. They need to be dealt with, and often in painful ways. Right? Eustace needed to be de-dragoned. He needed to come out of his greed and his arrogance, and he needed to be descaled, and that wasn't fun. Aravis needed to feel the consequences that her actions had on another person. And our bubble often needs to be popped, right? And the Lord is pleased to do that, and that's not because he's cruel, it's not because he's mean, but it is because we need to grow and mature and be trained in righteousness. And that discipline, that training, is not easy. And Scripture testifies to that, and we can look at our own lives and recognize, yeah, it's not easy, but it does bear the fruit of righteousness. So this line reminds us, safety is not our chief good. Right? Safety is not our chief good. Our God is our chief good. And he is a roaring lion. He is the Lion of Judah. He is not safe. He is not tame. We should fear him, but it's that sort of fear that should keep us very near him, right? Very close to him. For he is our comfort, right? He is our king, and our king is good.